What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched season 1 of Heavenly Delusion, also known as Tengoku Daimakyo. Long time coming. We finally finished it. We started watching it when it first came out. Then we took a break to watch other things that are higher priority. We finally got around to finally finishing this off. We literally just watched the last episode, and it was a pretty bleak one. But yeah, we will be going... probably partial spoilers, maybe towards the end full spoilers. I am wondering if this should serve as just like a vague review or if we should go full details. So I guess we'll figure that out as we go. Yeah. But
just be warned.
Yeah, just be warned. But yeah, we both watched the whole thing, and we're going to talk about it. We'll do a real quick recap, but I'm not going to go episode by episode. So basically almost like a synopsis. This is a show about a kid named Maru who is basically looking for a place called Heaven. He's being protected by Kiriko, who is his bodyguard, somebody who has gone through something in the past that has altered them in a way that's very confusing for everybody. The whole show is kind of confusing for everybody. And they are on their own mission to find someone and make sense of what's going on with themselves, as they basically go from place to place in a post-apocalyptic Japan, taking out what are called man-eaters. Maru is basically a superhuman and is able to touch man-eaters and kill them, all the while these things are going around eating men or people in general. Big problem in this post-apocalyptic world. And then there's a separate story happening, a secondary story. It's not even like a to the side thing. It's like it's alternate. It's like also the main story of a bunch of kids in some kind of academy, some kind of weird experiment lab place where they hang out together and are taught by robots while people observe them and do experiments, and things start to go weird and awry there. Yeah, some speculation from our part that maybe we'll get into later in this review of, what time this is happening at, because we have our theories. But let's go into a more vague, spoiler-free part of this review. Overall, what did you think of season 1 of Heavenly Delusion?
Overall, I liked it. It is a lot more mental gymnastics than I think I was expecting going into it. Of course, I went into it pretty blind. I remember originally watching a clip of the first episode and noticing the animation was really good and that the art style was unique. So I was like, I want to check that out. And then I heard people speaking pretty positively about it. So that was my main into it. And then I watched probably I think 3-4 episodes, and then I had talked to you about it, and you had expressed interest, and we started over.
Well, yeah, before you even watched it, you had showed me a trailer, and I was interested in seeing, because I thought the art style animation looked good. But yeah, you had watched a couple episodes and basically thought it was maybe worth pursuing. So,
and then the whole journey through the show, I had a lot of fun with. Though at the end, they basically took a box of puzzle pieces and just threw them they just throw them at you,
with like one thing getting resolved in a pretty unsatisfying way.
Yeah,
I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
it's not good.
It ends on not even one cliffhanger, a ton of cliffhangers.
It's like barely a cliffhanger. It's like there should be another episode.
Yeah, though after sitting and thinking and having a little discussion about it, I do think it's intentionally that way to make you think, and I do think we're on the right path.
I do think the show is confusing. I do think they do have a plan. Obviously, it comes from a manga, I assume. I'm saying obvious. I'm not even sure. I'm sure it comes from a manga, but they definitely know what they're doing. They're just intentionally being confusing, which isn't satisfying in the sense of I'm waiting for the answers. But it is interesting to speculate because there are pieces available that I think you can get more info out of.
Yeah, because when it ended, I felt not satisfied initially, but now, like sitting there and kind of like stewing on it a little bit, I actually think I do feel pretty good. Though I'm going to be real bummed out if there's not another part to answer the questions officially.
That was my big thing right when we just finished it. I was like, it needs a season 2.
Yeah.
And you brought up the manga, and I'm like, that's good for people who are going to read the manga, but as a piece, like just like a movie,
Yeah.
and people are like, yeah, play the game to understand. Like, no. It's probably good if you do that, but the movie or the anime has to serve as its own thing, its own entity, and so a second season's needed for this first season to have the impact it should have.
Yeah.
Because there's too many things that were left unanswered.
Yeah, it's definitely unfinished. So.
Yeah.
So that aside, though, I did enjoy the journey. It did a really good job of like giving you little pieces here and there while constantly giving you questions, which kept it kept you wanting to come back. I cannot form that sentence for some reason. It made you want to keep watching because like you kept getting these little questions and kind of answers and some questions and some kind of answers, and so like it was good in that way. I also think the little bits of lore we keep getting about the world have been fun and very unique, which has been great. That being said, the show doesn't have a problem with really covering some dark topics a lot, and I don't know if it'd be for everyone in that regard. I enjoy that kind of stuff, but it was a bit unnerving sometimes. So,
Yeah, for anybody who, because I see in modern times when it comes to more mature animes, some people being upset that they'll touch certain topics.
Yeah.
If you are somebody like that, I think if you can, you should watch it, but this might not be for you. Like if you watched Berserk and you're upset with the end, maybe
or Goblin Slayer's beginning.
you might not like this show because it reminded me even like modern anime will go to some pretty dark, mature places that I wasn't expecting watching this because the beginning of the show has the very post-apocalyptic. There's marauders, you can't trust anybody kind of thing going on, but it didn't seem too super dark. But as the show progresses on, and even some of the stuff that's happening on the alternate storyline of like kids doing certain things and certain things happening, I was just like, the show is pretty mature. That's very interesting.
Well,
so
even one of the two main characters, their story is like real messed up. So yeah, I don't know. It's if you like dark stuff, it's gonna be there. So, but overall, yeah, I like the flow of the show. I liked the story that we did get, though I need answers. And the only complaint I have is they brought in a director for, I think it was episode 9, maybe it was 10, I can't remember. The art style got really goofy and really pulled me out of it. And if that was a common thematic through the show, it wouldn't be a big deal, but you can't do 2/3 of a season and then throw a curveball like that. That was real weird.
It wasn't even just the art style, it was the pacing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like freeze frames, a lot of skipping around, stuff like that. It felt sloppy compared to the rest of the show.
That director, I looked it up after we watched it, and that director is known for that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but
it was episode, I think, 10.
Yeah.
Where they're in a van. I'll just put it that way. It felt off.
Yeah. And just tonally, it kind of was like, it's interesting that they chose to go ahead and put that in the same show, basically, because it just doesn't feel the same at all.
Yeah.
And like, just from a standpoint of it, like being an isolated thing, I probably wouldn't care so much because like, that'd be the style of it. But we have been shown a style the entire show and even after that episode. So like, weird choice. That'd be my biggest complaint of the whole show, was just that it was tonally really goofy. But otherwise, the show's pretty consistent. So,
Yeah.
thoughts?
Going spoiler free.
Which is hard.
The biggest thing, we'll at the very end just touch on some of the things that are more spoilery. I'll give you guys a warning before we do that. But First off, I really like the art style of this show, like a lot. It reminds me of really old school, like 90s animes, but definitely in a modern way. The animation is always pleasant to look at, whether they're just kind of wandering around, which always looked good, or, the minimal action sequences that do happen in the show. They're more events that take place than like a action scene, but they're always fun to watch. They're done well. The characters, I think, are interesting enough. There is some charm to some of them, but the show's so bleak and dark in some ways that like I can't ever like we're over there reviewing Delicious in Dungeon, and that show is just like obviously tonally completely different. Like you get to enjoy the episode, you come out, it's fun. All the characters have their charm. Some dramatic things might happen to them, but like it's just like a different experience. This show, it's like, yeah, there's some charm to these characters, but then like some bad shit happens, and you're just like, man, I just kind of feel bad like that this stuff's happening. So that's like a different feeling to it. But I like it because it's refreshing to be able to watch something that's more mature in tone in a lot of ways. The adventure element of Maru and Kiriko's whole journey, I think is satisfying from both a like post-apocalyptic standpoint, because it's kind of neat to see like a post-apocalyptic Japan. They're like wandering through these streets and finding like random people having random episodic adventures. It's good formula. Different people, you don't know if you can trust them or not. There's a lot of humor that happens there. A lot of the hunting of man-eaters, which is fun as well. But it's not even like a main focus. This isn't like Demon Slayer, where like they're going to be hunting demons. They just sometimes run into man-eaters,
yeah,
and then it's like an event, and they're always different, and like affects the people in the area differently. And this also isn't like a super barren post-apocalyptic world. It's actually quite a bit of people. It's just more so how people are living in this world that hasn't been reconstructed yet, basically.
Infrastructure and society are gone.
Yeah, but there's still a lot of people wandering around, which is kind of interesting. And so that is a lot of fun. We get a couple flashback episodes too with the characters that I think, one of them is very important to one of the characters, but it kind of drives the momentum of why they're even on this journey in the first place, with the resolution to one of those arcs that was like really not satisfying. I'll just put it that way. And then the alternate story that's being told, which I couldn't really spoil for you if I wanted to, because it's like really confusing, but it's interesting because in the beginning of the show, I felt like every time I was watching, the other storyline and I'm interested in it, go to these kids and I'm like, I don't know what the hell these kids are doing. It's not really like properly getting into who they are, anything about them. And like, I almost felt like it was kind of distracting from the main story. But towards the end, I have to admit, it started getting a little more interesting on that side of the story as well. And as that starts unraveling, especially towards the last couple episodes, they start flipping back and forth a lot between these two stories happening. I started becoming more invested in that as well. So it's definitely strengthening the whole story between the two stories, but it also is pretty unresolved by the end. And I'm not going to tell the specifics. I guess that's kind of a spoiler. That's my opinion. Watch and form your own. But overall, I liked the show for sure, but it needs a second season because I need things answered. And I'm worried if we don't get a second season, this will kind of, it's not a waste because people put work into it, and I think it was worth watching. But you won't get the benefit of what the hell we even invest the time into if we don't get the resolution to the things this show proposes, or even fucking puts us on paths to find out. Like it's just, it's almost frustrating to think about because I'm like, man, it's gonna really suck if we don't get those answers. So I guess I got to read the manga, but yeah. Overall, I like the show. There's a couple things about the nature of the show that kind of bum me out. but that's not necessarily a complaint. I want to feel different things watching different things, but yeah, there's definitely some episodes I didn't leave like having enjoyed. I was just like, man, that's a thing.
Yeah, episode 12 specifically.
Yeah, that was a rough one.
Yeah.
It was a really rough one. And even 13 was rough.
Mm-hmm.
So, like the last episode. Though, if I can throw one more vague thing out there, the conversation we had after episode 13, where you were saying that you were suspecting something, and I was like, I think I was thinking that pretty early on, but then we started kind of talking about it, and it started kind of cementing for both of us that probably is what's going on. Was fun, because I always appreciate if I watch a movie, if I walk out, I'm still thinking about it and talking about it and trying to digest it, as opposed to, and there's room for both, because like I can watch Delicious and Dungeon, I'm like, that was fun, and then just be done with it. Like I'm not sitting here going like, man, what did they mean by
even
this?
these like Demon Slayer as an example, like that's a very straightforward show, right?
Yep.
It's just a fun time versus like this is definitely more of a thinker. So
it's designed to be like that too. It's not even just like the subject matter's so deep. It's like they literally frame by frame are like, well, we're only going to give you some of this and then a little bit of this, and at this moment when this thing's happening, this is going to happen, and then we're going to give you this little glimpse, and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's like, man. So yeah, before we jump into spoilers, I do recommend this to people who can handle mature content.
not an understatement.
If you like post-apocalyptic shows or stories in general, I think you'll like this. If you like kind of like buddies on a road trip kind of thing in a post-apocalyptic world, I think you'll like this because it has that vibe. If you like science experiments gone awry, or like just cerebral mysteries, I guess, I think you'll also like this. And if you like things that make you think, I know it sounds really simple, but some people don't like that. I've talked to many people who are like, I don't want to think too much when I watch something. I just want to, be entertained.
Yeah.
If you like the idea, or you're open to the idea of like having to actually think about what you're watching, I would recommend this as well. If I were to, you want to throw any recommendations?
Yeah, if you're into, if you like things that are like suspenseful with like horror themes, because definitely has that going on for it, I would suggest it. And then also, if you, to kind of add on to the post-apocalyptic thing, if you like to see how the perception basically of how people would act in an end of the world situation, you get a lot of that in this show, because there are,
from a lot of different perspectives.
You'll get like face value versions of people, and then you'll get like real intention versions of people, and it happens a lot in the show, to be honest. And so like it's a good if you're into the idea of like how people function in a way. So
yeah, last recommendation I would give is light, but I do think it'd be worth mentioning. If you like, because there's a bunch of them out there, animes where people are like going around hunting things down, like Demon Slayer, or like oh no, what's the other thing? It's like Demon Slayer where they go around and they hunt things down. There's so many things like that. I can't remember the other ones off the top of my head though. We watched another one,
Hell's Paradise.
Just maybe stuff like that, where people are going around like eliminating enemies or whatever. You might like this, although it does play second to the actual story. This is actually like a very much like a character story. It's not necessarily about them saving the day and beating the monsters, stuff like that. It's just a thing that happens, which is kind of refreshing,
and also trying to figure out like what happened / is happening to the world itself. So
yeah, I mean, even like soul leveling, like he's going around to these dungeons and knocking them out and stuff like that. So it's not necessarily that format, but it does have that. So yeah, I think that's all I got for recommendations. In terms of a grade, before we go talk spoilers, this one's tough because I really love the visual style of it. If I was grading this based off just the art and the animation and the total just aesthetic and vibe, I'd probably give it an A. I really love the way it looks, but because the season feels incomplete on purpose, but some of that wasn't satisfying for me, I'd probably give this. I'm like shuffling between a B or a B plus. I'm going to give it a strong B that I feel like will go up if a season 2 comes out. I feel it's going to be similar to like Jujutsu Kaisen, where I needed more than the first season to really appreciate it. So, fuck it, I'll go with a B plus. I'm going to go with a B plus because I do really enjoy a lot of elements of the show, but some of it just felt like almost fatiguing in some ways, like unraveling the mystery and all the darker elements, stuff like that. It was just like, this is an intense journey, but I liked it. I want to see a second season, so I guess that's the biggest takeaway. Is I do want more from it. I just need to take breaks in between episodes so I can digest what the hell I watched. So yeah, B plus, light B plus.
I as a season of anime, I would probably also give it a B plus. Though I do think it's important to say that my interest is definitely at like an A.
Yeah.
And I think that if a second season had the same like consistency and like had a gratifying, and I don't mean like a happy ending, but like an ending that like wraps it all up, whether it's depressing or not, whatever, I would pretty easily, I think, give it an A. But I also think that if we don't get a second season, I'm happy with a B plus. And if we get a second season and it ruins it, I could drop the whole show down to like a D or an F even, like because like it is kind of that kind of story where a bad ending could ruin the whole thing. So but
there's too much at play that it can either really boost it or really hit it hard if they can't stick the landing, basically.
Yeah. So I think it has very high potential, but as what we got, I'm comfortable with B plus. So
yeah, that's fair. Well, let us know in the comments if you're only watching this for non-spoilers. Well, I guess if you haven't seen it, are you interested in watching it? If you have watched it and you want to talk vague, what did you think of the show? And okay, so we'll talk a couple spoiler things. We're not going to go fully in depth because we're already running along here, but just a couple things I want to talk about. So yeah, I'll give you guys a couple seconds. We're going full spoilers, so hopefully you've watched the whole show. If you are planning on watching the show, this is your sign to get out.
Get out of here.
Unless you want to hear about the spoilers, but yeah, mostly I just wanted to discuss the link we've been speculating on between the kids at the academy and what's going on with Maru and Kiriko, because there's a point where Tokyo gets pregnant by Kona and she ends up having twins. And the whole time, I've been trying to make the connection between Maru, heaven, which I am wondering if this place is heaven, because they kept saying Tengoku, talking about all that shit, which I have gathered now is heaven.
They said they were going to create heaven and bring it to the outside.
Yeah. So he's looking for heaven. They're trying to create heaven in this place. And I'm still so fucking confused about there was an alien at this place.
That was a weird one, yeah.
There's robots. The old lady can control the robots. The kids have powers. It's really confusing. But anyway, as soon as all the and like earlier in the show too, like a lot of these kids and their kids are being like kind of almost like flirtatious with each other and stuff like that and experimenting, which I kind of interpret as like, yeah, kids or teenagers, younger teenagers, they do that. Maybe we're just being that mature about the story.
Well, they weren't taught about sexuality.
Yeah.
And so like we're kind of being put in a situation where people at puberty level are learning the natural way, essentially.
And so when that was happening, I was like, it's weird. I was like, is an accident going to happen here? And then they're like, oh, Tokyo's pregnant. I'm like, I wonder if she is going to birth Maru, but then she has twins, and then they start getting mixed up. The guy's like marking their feet or whatever, and I'm like,
And it's almost implied like one was like she didn't have twins, and they like cloned one.
yeah,
is what I was kind of getting out of that.
They were being
too.
weird about it, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, trying to think about that and digest that, and then thinking about like, you know, I had a feeling this whole time that like these kids were like not at the same happening at the same time as the other story. And then as we were talking, you were saying, and I think I remember this too, Maru was talking about somebody who looked like him or whatever.
In the very beginning, his whole purpose is to inject a shot into his twin, basically, someone who looks like him.
Which is interesting because when the show first started, I thought Tokyo was who he's talking about.
Yeah,
because he looks similar. He has a similar face.
Would also make sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I think Tokyo's his mom.
Yeah.
Which would be really interesting. Also, at the very end of the last episode, the kids are in and I really wish we got to see how the hell they even got on that boat, because at one moment, Mimi Hime and that one kid fell off the cliff. The other people are like out in the woods somewhere. And then at the end of the episode, they're all on a boat together going towards a city that's not post-apocalyptic. So
yeah, it's Tokyo, like modern day.
So that kind of gives a lot of information on like they likely are around in a pre-apocalypse world. Also, Mimi Hime looked at Kona when she's seen these visions of premonitions, basically, and he was a man-eater.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were kind of speculating on, like, are these kids man-eaters?
Well, she has, like, animal ears, basically.
Yep.
And Tokyo, when defending her children, her eyes...
glowed blue.
Thank you. My mouth is not wanting to work today.
Which the man-eaters have a blue symbol.
They have symbols that glow blue. And even the new kids, the one that wears the sunglasses, the eyes turn blue. And they all have different powers, and all the man-eaters have different powers. And so, like, the speculation there is that kids are the original man-eaters.
Yeah, which would be crazy.
Yeah.
See, that's the payoff we need. Because
now they're loose.
Yep.
And so, like, the speculation here is, like, this is the beginning of the end.
Yeah. So. Well, that's the thing. It's going to be crazy if they are like the monkeys that have been experimented on got loose, basically, because these kids were all in this enclosed area, have an experiment basically done to them.
Yeah, and dealing with puberty and emotions and breeding, and creating more
things go awry because the experiment's not perfect and they didn't predict what would happen. I am really confused about what this event was that destroyed the building.
Yeah,
they called it like spear of something, but so we didn't get
almost feels like sabotage, because there's also like,
because they're all confused about it.
Well, there's also like inner politics stuff happening inside the building too, where people aren't agreeing with each other and stuff. So because they're honestly messing with a lot of taboos and playing God. So
when things were getting weird too, it kept showing that robot lady, and I was like, is she doing this? But then like the old lady commanded her, so I'm like really confused on what's even going on there.
Yeah.
But then when Tokyo, who had no idea they had a baby, is given her baby, instantly she's like trying to protect it, and she starts transforming into something. So that also could have been like suspect zero, basically the beginning of something, because there's a hole in this building now, so whatever happens here is not going to be confined there. But it also shows us that could be under her control, but it seemed like it was a reaction,
out of emotion,
and it was like sucking the old lady into it too. So which would be really interesting, because if the other twin, who could be Maru, gets out of the building and the other kid is with Tokyo, I don't know what happens. Just speculating. If you know, please don't tell us. But there's just a lot of things to think about. This is
the brain candy part of the show.
Yeah.
So
and this is the part that I enjoyed about the show that we couldn't talk about in the previous part of the review, because like you have to talk about the details. But that is where there's something really interesting. That's not just a show where you're watching people walk around and like fight monsters. There's like a whole story that they are giving you details about, but they just don't tell you. So there might be some stuff they told me about that I forgot. But
we watched this in segments, so
it
wasn't very consistent.
Yeah, but so if we miss something, let us know. We're talking full spoilers. We've watched the whole season. Just don't tell us beyond.
Warn people in chat as well.
Yeah. Please don't spoil things for anybody. It's not fun. So yeah, that was really kind of crazy. A lot of speculation there. I'm really curious to see where that goes, and that would be a really fitting for how dark this show is. Story arc, because the whole time too, I'm like, how'd the apocalypse happen? What happened?
Yeah, and where the monsters come from, etc.
Yep.
And why can Maru feel them and then kill them,
delete them?
Yeah, he can just essentially like reach their heart in a like weird like mental plane.
Yeah.
And stop their heart basically. So.
Yeah, so I mean, he's connected in some way to all this, and so that's what makes sense to me.
But then also, like, is he a man-eater? Like, I don't know. It's weird. And then, like,
could have a reaction like Tokyo.
His, relationship with Kiruko, wherever the hell that's gonna go, and
that's also a confusing thing about the show because Kiriko was a boy.
The brain of
the brain
boy
put into his sister's
body,
and so they're kind of having like confusion about their identity, trying to make sense of that, and then that gets pushed even further with what fucking happens with Robin, which is just fucking horrendous, and now they're having even more of like a crisis of like not knowing who the hell they are, all the while mixing in a romance between her and Maru.
Yeah, who's very like specific about saying like, I don't know which version of you is which or whatever, but like the person you are now,
the product now,
is the person I like.
Yeah.
Like, and so but yeah, that whole story too is like nothing but darkness. Like, we get this like their childhood where a man-eater basically starts sucking up the main character, who's the younger brother in the here. I can't remember names right now. Sorry, I think it's like Hiroko or something like that. The sister comes, to aid, and then we get just a moment where we hear a gunshot, and then wakes up. Someone's performed a surgery. The brain's in the sister's body, and this is the character we have now. And those people are gone, and that's the mystery. And so, like, their journey the whole time is to try to find people from their past, and Robin is one of those people that we run into. So,
who's just an all-around not good dude,
which is funny because he's portrayed as a great dude.
Yeah, it's
early on.
That's what made it even worse. But the thing that was fucking weird is as soon as she went to the bridge and she's getting like scanned over, I'm like, that seems weird. And then like the whole vibe building up to it, I was like, this seems ominous. Mm-hmm. So, and yeah, that was just fucking rough to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you said her story's dark, yeah, it is.
The entire story.
The whole thing is. Yeah. And it wasn't resolved in a good way. And now they're even more confused. And now they also are doubting themselves constantly because they're like, why are you protecting me? I'm your bodyguard.
They don't even know who the hell they are at this point.
Yeah. And so that was just a fucking... Like, I appreciate the storytelling, but that was draining.
Yeah.
To watch.
Yeah.
There's no light there. There's no fun with that story.
Yeah.
But I can appreciate it. But it was like pretty dark.
Yeah, and I don't even know how much we can actually say because I think YouTube gets a little weird about obviously the subject material.
Yeah, I'm avoiding a lot of specifics because there's no reason to really say it. So
but yeah, they're
anyone watch knows.
Yeah, it's rough for sure, and I've seen plenty of shows where they depict that, and it's usually, I mean, it's always awful, right? But like, because we've spent so long with this idea of who Robin is, and then to just kind of see it turn into that, I was just like, oh god, this is gross, man.
Oh.
So
sinister, disgusting. So yeah, that was interesting. But I mean, at least Maru as a character is a more light-hearted character. Also, his reaction wasn't enough for me. With that situation, I did want him to kill him.
He wanted to as well, but
Yeah. You see that a lot in animes of people like showing mercy, which in a lot of situations I'm like, yeah, that's probably the high road you should take. But this is like, nah, you should have just murdered him, dude. Like, especially later when the guys show up and they're investigating what even happened, and they go in the room and it seemed like there's a man eater or something that he has
attached to a missing person.
Yeah, which is also creepy. So that's also another unresolved story that I need to know more about. Like, what the fuck's going on in that room?
Yeah, why is everyone they run into experimenting on man eaters, man?
Yeah, it's really weird. And then another one that was really dark and sad was the doctor they ran into who had his wife or something that he gave one of his eyes to. And then she was basically on the precipice of turning into a man-eater, but he's keeping her alive and basically
cutting off the infected skin constantly.
Yeah, so that he could prevent her from doing that, but she was just basically being tortured and sacrificing herself to not harm other people. And then they end up, Maru, because she's basically a man-eater, takes her out. And then he ends up taking himself out, the doctor. That was a
dark one.
That was a draining episode as well. I appreciated the storytelling, but it was like, fuck, dude. Yeah, so that's kind of a regular thing in the show.
Yeah.
So, when there's just a part where like, oh, hey, this kid got pregnant, I'm like, man, this show's just like, fuck it, dude. We're doing whatever the hell here.
Yeah, foot on the gas.
Yeah. So, but I think that I really appreciate that they went to those dark places, but man, it's just like, it's a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, in fact, I think there's a lot of people who probably couldn't watch this show.
Probably.
But
probably shocking for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, I just think a lot of people sensitive to the subject matters to the point of like just wanting to not deal with it. So,
yeah.
Which is understandable.
Which is fine, yeah. As long as you don't try and get rid of it for other people, just don't watch it. If it's not for you, I get that.
Yeah.
I see when people are like, this shouldn't be a thing. It's like, well,
we don't talk about and discuss these things. We don't, get to understand the gravity as much. So,
sure. Anything else spoilery we should talk about? We're already running close to 40 minutes.
I don't think so. Just because like a lot of it is just the small details of the journey, and we'd be basically pulling a Tolkien and discussing the wind and the grass.
Sure. Yeah, I just want to talk about the, being vague about the darker elements, being able to talk about it. So,
yeah. And of course, like obviously all the puzzle pieces that are thrown at the end, allowing some pretty, I think, spot on speculation, but good speculation. So,
biggest thing I'm confused about though is that alien, man. I don't understand what the hell's happening
and only
there.
2 people could see it, I think.
Yeah,
it was
really weird.
The kid who, I can't remember his name, but he's the one who draws all the pictures, and then the girl, the Mimi
Hime.
yeah, could see it. So,
yeah, it was really weird. And then after it left, she could still see it like in the air or whatever.
yeah, it had hung itself.
Yeah,
I guess I probably shouldn't say that, but and it was just still there because only 2 people could see it apparently.
Yeah, it's self-deleted. It was going back wherever the hell it said. So, really, really dark shit. But that was weird because a lot of the show, it wasn't around. And then one episode, it was just there all of a sudden. And then it did that.
Yeah, like a flashbang, dude.
Yeah, and I'm just like, what was that?
Yeah.
Like, what just happened?
Never answered.
So, yeah, needs a season 2.
Yeah.
But I think that's about all I have to say on the show.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to go watch something happy before I go to bed now.
For sure. But the big 3 things for me is I really love the art style. I love the art style a lot. I liked the adventure of it. Every episode had me wondering what was going to happen next, and mostly what kind of characters they're going to run into, which I really enjoyed. The character part, like the dude they ran into, who had like the information he was selling or whatever, and he came from also really dark. He came from like a matriarchal breeding place.
The academy.
That was the academy? Was it the same place?
Yeah, it was one of their facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will say it's not the facility. Okay.
No, that's it.
But
because they were chasing the logo, and
yeah,
and he recognized it.
Yeah,
so.
fucking that was really dark too. Although the ending I thought was satisfying because he got his revenge and he's very old boyish.
I know his kid is a monster now, but
yeah, It's dark. Show's dark. And then also the last thing I really appreciate about the show was just that there's something to chew on. There's something to think about, which I do appreciate. Although I'm happy to take a break for a little bit. So
yeah, if you like to feel something when you watch something, you'll feel something.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
All right. Well, let us know in the comments what you thought of the first season. Did you like it? Did you not like it? And what were your big takeaways? Is there something about the show that you wanted to talk about that we didn't talk about? Let us know in the comments. If it's spoiler stuff, please label it as such so other people don't, get anything spoiled for them. But of course, we've watched it, so we're ready to talk about that if you want to. And hopefully you enjoyed this extended review of season 1. There's definitely plenty of stuff to talk about. And stay tuned. We're going to be sampling Sandland. Well, actually, I just want to watch it. But we're going to be sampling Kaiju number something.
I believe it's Kaiju number 8.
Number 8. We're going to check that out and see if it's something we want to continue watching. Demon Slayer, of course, when that starts, we'll be watching that. We are regularly watching Delicious in Dungeons. So if you're watching that as well, check out our reviews. And episodic reviews. We're doing every episode. And other things. Recommend something you want us to watch. Maybe more dark stuff. You're like, you think this is dark, check this out. Let us know in the comments below. But I've been Seth, this has been Chevy. And until next review, we will talk to you guys later.